Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We are your hosts. I am Joe.
I'm Randy.
This is episode 62 of our podcast, and the date is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. How's it going?
Pretty good. Had a interesting day at work today. Got a little frustrated with my students, but that's all right. Didn't really get mad, just kind of disappointed.
Disappointment.
Say the least.
Yes.
Get used to disappointment.
Yes. Yeah, well, I was sick yesterday.
Ooh.
One of the rare days. Something didn't agree with me that I should have put in my body, but my body said, no, you should not have eaten that.
Do not eat food. Food's bad for you.
So I spent some time in the bathroom.
On a good note, I changed my workout time. I'm working out in the afternoons, and that's not great for me. So this week I got up at 5:30 and went to the gym early. Got there by 6. And I tell you what, I feel so much better when I work out in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I used to always do that, several years ago. So now I'm back at it, and tomorrow's bright and early, and that's fine. I feel good when I work out early. So that's my new routine. Early in the morning, get up.
Early morning.
Yep.
All right. Well, we have a few call-ins. We were only graced with one listener.
Okay. One old listener. Oh, well.
One whole listener, but it was Taylor.
Thank you, listener. Oh, it's Taylor. He counts as like 6.
Something like that.
Yeah. So it's okay.
I suppose before I play, should share.
Oh, yes. Please share your greatness with me just for a moment.
One of these days, I'm going to work this out that it doesn't take so many steps to do. Maybe I can write a macro or something. I don't know. Anyway, here goes.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah. Here goes Taylor.
Good morning. This is Taylor of Clerics Ringmail calling in to talk about the cast of Critical Role. I have an article on my blog where I express my opinion of Critical Role, the synopsis of which is the first 12 episodes or so are worth what we're listening to. The rest of it, man, I could leave it. But the cast, most of them are voice actors. They appear in dub anime. Some of them, I think one in particular, appears in commercials with some degree of regularity. One of them, though, is a real actress, the cleric from their first season, Ashley Johnson. She was famously the daughter in Growing Pains, if you remember that from the 90s. And more recently, she's appeared on Family Guy, a children's show called Ben 10, as well as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. So it's not particularly star-studded, but they do have one starlet in the mix.
A real actress.
Yes.
Did you catch that? I guess voice actors aren't. I'm sure Taylor didn't mean that, but
To speak to GMless games, I personally don't play them. However, I do know a handful of actual play podcasts that will illustrate how a GMless game would work. The first that comes to mind is the big one, Tale of the Manticore. Also, Arlen Walker over at Live from Pelham's Wasteland has done a couple videos on YouTube, as well as a couple episodes where he uses a GMless game and plays with himself. The big one, though, that I like to recommend to people, and I have a review of this on my blog a month back or so, is A Subclass Act by James Schroll. He hangs out on the Audio Dungeon Discord with us. He goes through a whole bunch of different games, Savage Worlds, 5th edition, Old School Essentials, and uses a handful of different oracles. So the oracle being the tables that Joe refers to help you determine outcomes. And he goes through both telling a story, but also how the tools work.
I wouldn't consider Tale of the Manticore a GM-less game. Well, I guess it's I guess it's kind of a game. Yeah, I guess it is. I guess that's fair. It's different. It's its own beast, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, fair enough. He's rolling dice, so it's gamey.
It would it could turn out that way. Well, as far as the dice rolls and stuff, you're just sitting there by yourself and you're determining everything on your own. So
I would say you're GMN player rather than GMless.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Kevin over at the Red Caps podcast did a brief solo play. I don't know if he's doing that anymore, though. He had taken a hiatus for a bit, and I don't know if he's going to continue that. So that is the solo play kind of game where you have an oracle table or series of tables to help determine outcomes. And personally, for me, it's more of a narrative tool. I want to create a story, so I use the tool, the oracle, to help determine the outcome of that story. So it imitates the collaborative emergent narrative of a game, but you don't have to group a bunch of people together. Now, those are solo plays. If you were talking about multiplayer experiences, so stuff like Gloomhaven, that I'm not as versed on. So I'd leave it to your discretion to find someone else who's smarter than I.
Gloomhaven, I believe, is more like a board game, and I've heard it plays a lot like an RPG. When I wasn't playing much there a while, especially during COVID, I was very tempted to buy that. I'm glad I didn't, but I was tempted.
Yeah, I've not played anything like that. The closest I've come to even seeing anything like that is that one game I keep forgetting the name of.
Descent is somewhat.
No.
Oh,
It's an RPG that we
oh,
looked
Iron
at.
Sworn.
Ironsworn. I thought it had iron in it, but I couldn't remember. Iron something. Ironsworn.
Yes.
Yes. I looked through it, but I didn't. It's the same. It's has oracles, tables, and stuff like that the party uses or the solo person uses.
Right.
So, I mean, there's no other way for me that I can think of that you would do
so
it,
Ironsworn is meant to be a See, that's different.
No. It has multiple options. So it's an RPG. It has a GM-less option and it has a solo GM one player, I think, or perhaps or perhaps a GM-less solo and some other sort of solo option. So it has multiple options for play.
I was thinking I'd heard there are games where like 4 or 5 get together and nobody's the GM.
Yeah, there's stuff like that.
Okay. Sounds odd.
Yeah. Well, some games are designed that way, and they're I imagine they're very narrative because and I can't imagine too many surprises out of it.
Yeah.
Except for, when you get, well, if you know the tables all say, because the tables are right there in front of you. Yeah. Can't be really a surprise.
True.
Talking about elephants, those rogue elephants, definitely dangerous critters. Definitely something you want to be aware of. Though, from what I've heard, the bigger thing you have to worry about is the magic user elephants, especially the ones up at higher level. One wave of the trunk and the entire party's asleep.
Oh, yeah.
True. Magic user elephants. That's awesome.
That is. Thank you, Taylor, for the jocularity. That's fun. All right. So I guess we're going to move along once Mr. Nichols deigns to return to his camera.
Sorry, doggy was barking and I had to shut the door.
Gotcha. I didn't hear anything.
The wind blows and Brago's got to bark.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So.
All right. So that's call-ins. No emails to speak of. Let me see here. Yeah, I got out of work late, so I don't think we got any.
Okay.
No.
I got I think that's it.
So Contest of Champions #2, the winner has
gotten
received
his
his prize.
Yeah.
And he that was Taylor.
Huh?
Right? That was Taylor, right? No.
No.
There was one.
That was Zach Risen. Forgot his first name. George.
Yes. Taylor incidentally put up his unboxing, which was a bit preempted by his children being very excited to open a box, which was very funny and sweet.
I listened to it. Mm-hmm.
So he said he was going to have a more thorough unboxing or review of the things inside a little later.
Okay.
What about number 3?
Well, Randy's still waiting. I know we're not close to 250 yet, so Joe let me know I'm still in the clear, though he's cracking the whip on me.
Yes.
I got to figure out a third item. I'm going to stick with Inferno Battles of the Abyss and Max from X Crawl, and so for the first 2 items, I want to pick a third one people can choose from. I like to give them options, so I'll figure it out. I haven't got it quite figured out yet.
Well, maybe we can open it up to the people, the peons.
Oh man!
Oh, sorry, you're all there. I'm sorry, I said that right there.
Not out loud. Okay, yeah. No, we love you.
The listeners, yes, the listeners,
the wonderful listeners, and
yes,
carrier people out there.
Let us know, if you will,
yeah,
what you would like to see in a prize. That would be interesting.
That would be. Maybe I got something that would fit the bill, and I can give you something close to what you guys would like. Just drop us a line and say, this stuff sounds cool. This kind of thing sounds cool. Maybe I got something. It's not like I have a whole store here, but I got quite a bit of stuff.
And if we can get some actual folks donating to our cause, we can put that to good use in maybe getting a prize people might like.
Especially newer items. Yeah. That's a good idea.
So we are at 112 subscribers. So
cool. That's 2 more than last week.
Well, we had 112 kind of like by the end of the week. So maybe, I guess technically, yes. 110 this time last week. We got a whole 2 more. It's not bad.
Okay.
So,
yes.
That being said, Silent Josh presented us with a few items to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
The first being the 2023 Hold Your Breath DnD movie.
It's going to be fabulous, Joe.
Right.
I actually like, we can get suckered in, but I like the actual summary. I don't know if you got to read the article. The summary of the adventure is an ex-harper turned thief escapes from prison with his partner, a female barbarian, reunites, now you'll like this part, with a no-talent wizard and a druid new to their team in an effort to rob the cheating con man who stole all their loot from the heist that landed them behind bars and used it to install himself as Lord of Neverwinter. Only the traitor is allied with a powerful red wizard who has something far more sinister in mind. That actually sounds kind of good, except for that I know Joe loves the no talent wizard. You're gonna get Presto.
Yeah, I think the no talent wizard is because they have a low budget, so they probably can't afford a lot of magical effects.
Quite possibly.
Probably.
And so, they talk about that in the article and, how this is they keep promising I don't know if I think it was one of the directors says, don't worry, we're going to give, D&D, we're not going to disappoint the players. And then of course, at the end, they mentioned something about, it's been described as subversive look at the game. So suggesting the film wants to embrace its source material without fear of examining itself as well. Okay, that should be good.
Yeah.
That should be some dog.
We're going to have a lady barbarian who's going to be kicking everybody's butt.
Which is not the end of the world. I mean, there's female barbarians that do that in D&D, but it's going to be something subversive, something else. I'm sure it does get old, but we'll see. I still want to see it. So, and Joe is going to go see it with me. We're going together to the movie theaters. Don't shake your head. You're going. I know
if you're paying.
I will. I know where you live. Joe's going to go. He's going to love it. And he's going to pay for me to go the second time. He's going to love it so much.
Yeah, they're not really telling us a whole lot about who's who here.
Well,
cast. They have some names, but they're not putting person to role except for a couple. So.
Right. Yeah, you got Hugh Grant's playing I think that con man, which might be good.
He can be good. He can be a little stiff, but he can be good.
And I think Chris Pine's going to be the main character, and so is Michelle Rodriguez.
Right.
She was in she wasn't in Lost originally, was she? No, she was in
I don't think so.
I don't know.
They tell here about Fast and Furious, but she was also in if this is the same Rodriguez lady, then she was in just watched it the other night.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah,
90s action flick kind of thing. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't remember. We'll see. Jury's still out. Might be good. Probably. I mean, I don't have high hopes. So
I don't either. It's yeah, no. I usually if it was independent, I might be more positive, but
right.
I mean, is this an independent production?
No, I don't think so. I think you're looking at who is the production? Well, the two directors, or they did Game Night, which was actually pretty good. I saw that. Let me see who else. What else did they do? They mentioned them. John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, who previously blended comedy and action with Game Night. That might be it. So who knows? But they're I'm pretty sure they're not a production company that's going to be quote unquote independent. We'll
Production
see.
company, Allspark. Oh,
maybe.
Hasbro.
Oh, Hasbro's producing it. Okay.
Allspark, Entertainment One, and Hasbro. Well, they kind of will be involved because of the D&D trademark. So yeah. Who knows? They're probably a subsidiary of some other company. And
Probably.
I'm sure that good people out there don't want to watch us figure out that amount of detail.
There's not much to it. So yeah, moving right along.
Yeah. Next is the D&D TV show.
That's going to be on a, yeah.
Also not enthused.
But that's on a channel you used to love. Weren't you a G4 fan? Was that you?
Okay, for the brief amount of time that I could watch it on cable in between getting a cable package that had it and then it getting dropped from that cable package,
okay.
You know, and everything changing. Watched it way back when Leo Laporte was doing Tech TV.
Okay.
And they moved to podcast / YouTube video format, and I eventually got tired of them being and their shenanigans. But yeah, G4 got a little weird. So
okay. Well, they're
even
doing,
and I don't know about recently, but back in the day.
Yeah.
After kind of the bottom fell out and they were trying to figure out what they were as a station, they did all kinds of weird stuff. But yeah, and then it was then it became, not only did they do weird stuff, I think they got dropped from the package I was I had, so, and I didn't care.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
Well, it looks like G4 is doing up to 22nd of November. They're going to have and they're doing a live stream. G4's Twitch and YouTube with audience participation. Viewers who watch the live stream and YouTube will be able to participate in real-time votes. That's weird.
It's an actual play.
Yeah.
Yuck. Yeah.
Yuck. I thought it was going to be something interesting. It's not.
It's not.
Yeah. It's just a live play.
I mean, it'll be interesting, maybe, to folks who like actual plays, if it's a good actual play.
Right.
They make me fall asleep. So no thanks.
Yeah, when I first saw this, I initially thought the same thing maybe you were thinking. I knew it wasn't that, but I thought it was like a D&D show. Like, whoa, what are they going to do? But no, it's not that. It's just going to be actual play poop. I mean, again, I hate to say poop. It's just not for me. I don't care.
Yeah, it's not for me. It might be good.
It might be great. Yeah. Who knows?
Good for what it is. I really don't care. So for all you guys out there like actual plays, check it out when it comes out.
Yeah, it might be.
D&D actual plays,
man. Who knows?
G4.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm looking at the next one, which is a Willow TV show
on Disney.
On Disney. Not excited.
No.
I loved Willow back in the day.
Me too.
But to me, this is them. To me, this is them. A lot of this stuff is just nostalgia bait.
Yes.
So, hey, we're doing Willow. All you folks who used to like Willow back in the day.
Right.
It's not going to be anything like Willow because, of course, we're going to do our Disney shenanigans all over it. But
probably. I know Warwick Davis is reprising his role as Willow. I believe he's supposed to be a very powerful wizard at this point. We'll see. So I learned from some of our friends there were novels written actually by Chris Claremont and George Lucas that followed the adventures of Willow after the movie. I didn't know that. So
Yeah, I'm
we'll see.
looking at the cast here.
Yeah,
I don't know any
bunch
of them.
No, they're young. They're young folks.
Yeah.
So I don't know what their dealio is. They might be, beyond fabulous. We'll see.
Right.
In 30 years, so we'll have to see. I don't think. I'm not sure we'll even see because I'm with Joe. I don't really care to even watch Disney stuff.
Right. Okay. Well,
Next.
so, oh, that was me. A threat is detected.
Oh, is your computer attacking you?
Oh, yes, my computer Pluto TV is attacking me with its ads, and they got blocked.
Yes.
So let's close that crap before that happens again.
See, I told you Joe's a wizard with computers. He can block threats. Threatening blocker.
Yes.
I'm sure that's not terribly exciting. Probably a lot of folks do.
No. Just like a lot of these Hollywood thingies.
They are threats.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people who when a new Disney show, Marvel show, as long as it has something they're familiar with, they'll just run out and watch it and they'll love it. That's not me. That's not me.
But to be fair, through the Avengers Endgame, they built a lot of goodwill. I mean, I get that you could be bored, and Joe's talked about midway through the Avengers run that he basically thought it was because there's a pattern to it.
Yep.
But they were good. I mean, if you're a comic fan, they were they were the best thing we've ever had, to be honest with you.
Well, sure. Yes, compared to the old Batman show.
Oh yeah.
I mean, not so much the show. It was a bit campy, but the couple of TV shows they had.
Yes.
TV movies or whatever they were. There was a Batman TV movie. I don't know. Was it in the theaters too? The old one?
The one where they had all the villains in it, the Penguin, you're talking about with
the shark repellent spray.
Yeah, bat shark repellent. Yeah, but that's all. That was really campy. It was meant to be campy and funny, made in the 60s. I think it was at the movies at one time. That was pretty hot for a year or two. But Disney itself has created, I would say, to me, it's an amazing string of movies. I think it's 23 or so that were around the Avengers Endgame. But we know how they've been rolling ever since then. A few of those got under our skin because our leanings aren't like theirs. And but you're right, some folks just love it. If it says Marvel on it, boom, they're in.
They don't care about the kind of ham-fisted representation nonsense they have in them.
Right. And the agendas they're pushing.
Yeah. They just want to see their heroes on the screen. I'm perfectly content with what I already have.
Yeah.
If they're gonna churn out what they are, I won't watch it. More power to them. I don't care. So there.
But that last article,
yes, this is a little different.
Yeah, it doesn't really, if you look at it close, all it says is it's claimed that the head of Disney, Bob Chapek, is butting heads with the head of Marvel, Kevin Feige, over the woke approach to comics. And it goes through and makes some comments about how Captain Marvel was dropped from her own. Do you know that title? That name was dropped from her own title. It's now like the Marvel family or something.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
And Patty Jenkins, I think she's the director of Wonder Woman 1 and 2. 1 was good, 2 was garbage. She's been possibly taken off the Rogue Squadron movie, but I think this is just hearsay. Nothing's happening. I heard rumors today, I don't know if you've heard it, this morning, that Kathleen Kennedy has got re-up for 3 more years in Star Wars.
Huh, not surprised in the light.
Yeah, so I mean, there's no doubt that eventually,
there was a lot of people saying, she's out, she's gonna get replaced. Nah, I didn't think that for a minute.
Yeah.
No. And this thing about this is a rumor, and I know that some people let's see, it comes from a YouTuber named Doomcock. And funny name.
Yeah.
I think I've watched 1 or 2 of his things. He's pretty ostentatious, but it's just a rumor, and I believe that he has some reputation for being a bit accurate in but
he can be hit and miss. I've heard I've also heard stuff that he wasn't right on some things.
Yeah, so
But I
it's a
don't
rumor.
care. Yeah.
It might be that they've exchanged words or
Right.
email or something like that, but is it so what?
Yeah. Is it going to make a bit of difference? I don't think so.
Bob Chapek says, I don't like this. And everybody else is like, shut up, Bob. Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. We're totally woke. Shut up and love it.
Yeah.
So
if you don't, we'll make sure something's released about your hanky panky with somebody.
Yeah.
That's how they roll.
And I said that I don't like watching Marvel or Disney, but I do see some. I mean, I should say I'm annoyed by them. I still, I'm such a comic book dude. I sometimes can't resist. So I have watched some of like the What If series. I think I've watched all of it because my buddy Josh hooked me up. We watched on his Disney Plus account, and there's one scene where there's one story about a young Thor, and they have Captain Marvel just beat the living crap out of Thor.
Yeah, I don't.
And I'm just like, that's not even believable. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. She's awesome or whatever, but that was never, I don't know. They're just like, they just have to do it. Has to be all woman this and all this. I don't know.
If anything, they would just go to toe to toe and probably like call it a draw at some point.
At best, but honestly, I mean, Thor's a god. He's possibly the most powerful Marvel hero it was in the past. Now I'm sure it's all changed.
Yeah,
now he's the weakest. And it was an alternate, world or whatever.
Yeah, that's always their excuse. And,
well, that was what.
This is a problem that Eric July talks about.
Yeah.
All these alternate universes, what ifs, new 52, old 86, right, or whatever, all these different timelines that they screw around with, and then eventually they try to reconcile it into one thing, and it's always a train wreck.
Right.
And he has pledged that because he's kicking off his own comic universe, hopefully beginning of the year, and he's pledging that he's not going to do any of that, have any of those shenanigans, no time travel, none of that stuff. You're going to have a timeline and characters that you can count on being a particular way.
I always liked the What If comics because Marvel initially, those weren't meant to be, the original comics had nothing to do with the timeline. It lets you tell cool, and they were all compact single issue stories, like the one where what if Phoenix had killed Galactus, or what if Wolverine had killed the Hulk, and they would tell these stories, but then they'd be over,
Right. Yeah, that kind of a what if is fine.
Yeah, but when they,
as long as it's not something that replaces canon.
Yeah, and DC's melded all the timeline. I think even the current Superman is from another Earth. I think the New 52 Superman got killed by Doomsday. In comes the current Superman, who has Jonathan Kent and is married to Lois. Jonathan's his son. It's like, I guess I don't care, but sometimes he's right. It gets ridiculous and convoluted. And then they end up just using it for excuse to do dumb stuff, But even if they don't, it just gets out of sorts. To me, the big thing about this for me was, the truth is, I don't really care what Bob Chapek does. Mm-hmm. At this point, as a comic book company, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if both Marvel and DC completely crumbled.
Correct.
Not at all.
But I think that they're getting enough propping. I'm not sure if they have parent companies. I think that they might. So that DC and Marvel aren't wholly owned. I think that they might have
unless I'm incorrect, AT&T owns DC and Disney owns Marvel. So
that being the case, Disney rakes in a bunch of bucks doing lots of different things. If it wants to prop up Marvel, it can. And so same thing with AT&T. They have lots of money making concerns out there, and they can prop up their comic books without an issue, because because all, and I don't know how long they will, but as long as I think they can make money off of the movies, and they can run comic books so that they can advertise for movie franchises,
right,
or keep those kinds of ideas alive,
which is what they do,
and that's probably where they're going. And this isn't my original thought. It's another thing from Eric, and it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Mr. July there, he was saying that he thinks a lot of comic books are written geared for kicking off into movie land at some point on purpose. Maybe not all of them, but probably a good chunk of them.
Even if they're not, they're so poor now these days. I mean, honestly, I think I've said it before. This is the first time in my life that manga it was never even close
Right.
to American comics in the US, but now it's surpassed it.
Yeah.
And, I guess whatever. I guess if you suck, someone's going to come and take, nature abhors a vacuum. So, and I think Marvel and DC both are losing cash. I mean, I think they have been. I don't think they make any money. I don't know for sure. That's just what I've been hearing from people. And my point was crumbling is the comic industry. I wouldn't care if Marvel and DC completely disappeared and someone else took over, even if it was manga. Who cares?
Right. Well, a lot of people say they have better stories. I don't know. I don't know.
Actual stories, not just people talking to each other and about their feelings and their identity. So
right.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying isn't about the parent company propping up a failing subsidiary. Is something that happens a lot. I mean, Amazon. That's how Amazon works.
What do you mean?
Amazon. Okay, I believe that Jeff Bezos has a lot of different revenue streams. The Amazon Prime, the Amazon shipping company, is only one of them, and he uses. There might have been 1 year recently, either this year, last year, or year before, where they actually had a profit. In the years past, not so much. I think initially, maybe there was a initial thing he did because it was only books at first, and then that made him enough money, I think, that he could probably get some government contracts and figure out the supply chain issue so that he could offer shipping the way he does now, the way it does now.
I don't know.
So it morphed from the book only thing to the get just about everything. And now they want to be everything for you, your pharmacy and your grocery store. And I don't know, they might even sell cars. I don't know. But so that's why I'm saying, and they're not the only one that does that. So I'm sure that there are plenty of CEOs of corporations that have their pet projects that, though while it doesn't make money, they can funnel stuff off their money-making concerns so that they can prop up their pet project as long as it doesn't detract from the shareholders or his own profits.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So that's why I think them crumbling. I mean, they'll lose market share.
Yeah.
Like they already have, I think.
Yeah. Oh, they have. Yeah.
Yeah, they lost a big chunk of market share to the main
crowd. Just kicking their teeth in.
Right. So that'll go on for a while. It might. I mean, they might get to where it's too embarrassing for them to really keep. So, and then they might sell them off. Who knows?
I want to say at one point in July, 2020, I believe, there was articles about DC going down to like 8 titles.
I heard. Yeah, there was some talk about that.
There was some talk about that, and Jim Lee was talking about problems, and then they did their whole future state, which happened, and it was, awesomely crap.
Yeah.
So didn't do well. So anyway, all right. How now, brown cow?
All right. So next on the agenda is a rant by me, although I'll be smiling the whole time. So it's going to be a different kind of rant.
Get him.
All right. So the various editions of D&D up until at least 3rd edition support either explicitly or implicitly multiple differing campaign styles. Whether it's low prep, completely random determination of content at the table, to maximum full prep, to a maximum full prep, full on railroad.
Okay.
Whether modules are used or not, in part or in full, whether sandbox, follow where the characters lead, to pull the PCs kicking and screaming into your own fantasy story you seem to have failed to get published, but now are foisting on your unsuspecting players. There are some minimal, I'm just trying to joke around. There are some minimal core concepts that make D&D what it is. But none of these things include dictating how you organize, prep, and run the campaign. even if you run a campaign, because one shots are a thing. Also, because it has been stated many times in multiple ways, your table is your game. There is no RPG police to come take my books because of a group of cultists think they have unlocked Gary's secrets, or multiple groups of cultists. Now, I don't have 4th or 5th edition. There may be a prescribed correct way to play. I have no idea, but it seems from the many folks I know who play, that's not the case. However, there are 2 cults I have run afoul of lately. One, 5e should be your game. D&D is too important to stay stuck on older editions. Gygax is the most important man to have ever lived. Two, if you play long enough, the secrets of D&D will be revealed, and you will know the true way to play. Gary has spelled it out, but only the few have seen the truth. Cult A, meet Cult B. Please mingle. Have fun. I'm done with you.
Oh, what happened, dude? What got you so worked up? Are these real people been?
Oh, yes, real people.
So they really believe there's some secret way to play D&D that you have to master at some point.
Yes, because what they'll say is, it's Gary has spelled it out for you. If you just played long enough, you'd figure it out. If you play long enough, you will grok what he has said.
Oh, it's like Hoyle's rules for poker in Deadlands, where if you study the poker rules, you'll actually see real magic that you can cast. The hucksters, which are the spellcasters in Deadlands, study the poker rules of Hoyle, and those are where the secret spells are hidden. Is that what it is?
I think so. because I said, there's only one way to play. How do you know? And they pointed it in the book to me, which you could read that in there, but you could read other things too. So
what book did they point
to? The Player's Handbook.
First edition, second?
Yeah, first edition Player's Handbook. So they did that.
White box doesn't count.
Well, that's all we dealt with because it got a little salty.
Okay.
So yeah, then I pointed something else out to them in the DMG, and then I got called a rules lawyer.
They started with quoting the rules, and then they called you a rules lawyer.
Yeah.
And what
is the one that Gary warned us against.
Oh my God.
And let me say another thing. I like D&D a lot. It's my favorite hobby ever.
Right.
Shut up, Gary. You're dead. I don't care. You can say whatever Gary wanted us to, however Gary wanted us to play. I don't care. Shut up.
Which is funny.
If I had, I was thinking about trying, I didn't have enough time to do it. I was going to print up me a card that says, I do what I want. But I didn't have time. I got out of work late. So apparently I don't do what I want on some level.
Yeah, you work.
Yeah.
So these people are saying, oh, the one true way to play. I guess I don't even, my ways of playing the game, that's a podcast.
We do different things.
I've changed over my life, different ways, and gone back some. I moved back some.
Another comment was, people who don't play the game, they out themselves all the time.
Okay, what does that mean?
That means I haven't played the game. Obviously.
I don't play it right. So, and are they claiming that 1E was the only version of D&D that ever mattered?
We didn't get that far down because again, it got a bit salty. I got ridiculed a bit, and that's fine.
Yeah,
it is possible that these two camps are just really, really elaborate trollers.
Yeah.
They troll. It's possible, and kudos to them if they are, because it would be. I would laugh my butt off if it was revealed they're just trolling. I don't think so, but it's possible. And if I have misrepresented either camp, I mean, I'm a bit hyperbolic a little bit there, but I think I got the gist. If not, and you're watching, which I doubt, but if you are, and I got it wrong, let me know.
So wait a minute. So
call me names again. I'm sure that's what'll happen.
So one camp is Gary's put the secret in 1E. You just got to figure it out and play long enough. And the other camp,
right. If you if you don't understand it on your own, I'm not going to bother telling you about it. So they're full of logical fallacies. I mean,
I
completely.
got the secret, but I'm not telling you.
You got to figure it out yourself.
Right. That sounds like some weirdness going on. I don't get that. That's weird. That's beyond weird to me.
Right.
Okay.
So you know about the other one.
Yeah. Yeah. Cult of G Arabe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So rant over. I'm going to try very hard to put chapters in so you can skip this if you like. I should have said that in the beginning.
Okay.
Before I started, but
right.
Perhaps I'll if I can do it, I'll put in a little audio saying, look, I'm going to rant, skip ahead to blah, 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 if you like.
Right.
But
I think that's a rant everybody needs to hear. That's stupid. I mean, the second one for sure is ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't sound like a person would think that, but dude, we've been gaming for 40 years. So I've met all kinds of gamers. I wouldn't be shocked if there were more than a handful of people that actually believe that.
Right. I mean, if that's the way you want to play, cool. I like sandbox. I like randomness. I like think that what the players do matters instead of being on the railroad.
Mm-hmm.
Although sometimes like one shots, a railroad, or at least this is what we're doing today, is fine too, because you don't have time to hem and haw about, I want to do my own thing. Well, we only have 3 hours, so shut up.
And if you have a young GM who is just learning how to GM and he's following Keep on the Borderlands, play along if at all possible.
Yeah.
And mostly it's possible. Quit making excuses that your agency is that. I don't give a crap about your agency. Play along a little bit, give him a chance to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Yeah.
And one of them, they were saying something about they do minimal prep and they present the characters with some little bit of stuff to go on. And then they just go with what the players do.
Okay.
And that's fine.
Do it.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out.
Yeah. Just don't tell me that's the only way to play, because that's when you get dumb.
No. You could play a railroad, adventure path, Paizo, follow things lockstep, and it can be fabulous fun. I don't give a crap what anybody says. A super railroad can be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, by super railroad, I don't mean where you have no choices, but where the DM says, look, we're going on this adventure. The adventure is to defeat the Rune Lords, referencing Rise of the Rune Lords. And I'm running 6 different booklet adventures, and that's what I'm running. So make your characters accordingly, jump on.
Right.
And you can do stuff within the rails, like any other game. And they're not saying you can't go left instead of right. Doesn't mean you can't talk to this person instead of that one. But I'm not telling the story about how your half-elf paladin fell from grace and then decided to go off and become a druid and help the people from the other side of the planet. That's not what we're telling.
Right.
We're staying in Varisia and we're telling the Rise of the Rune Lords.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Good point.
All right. So rant over. Hopefully I maintained my jocularity throughout. Some of it was just joking. I was poking some people in there. Anyway, ready to move on?
Let's move it. Do it, man. Lead us.
Next segment, main topic, on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I worked late. I didn't have a lot of time to prep for this.
Would you like me to kind of
take the lead on this, and then I did read through it.
I know you did. It's okay. So my idea on this, Joe, was how do you track time in RPGs? And believe it or not, I was initially
watches.
Yes, perfect. I was initially inspired by Heathen Dog on Legion of Myth, his discussion of the whole low-level characters needing to age as they level and stuff like that.
Yeah, good idea.
And that's going to be a subtopic, maybe a long part of it. The first one. So I'm breaking this on the clock, tracking time. The first is about tracking time in the adventure. So we're talking about how do you track days, weeks, months, years, calendars? Do you talk about holidays? What's the advantages of each? And how do you do it? And I put down 2 options. And we've done both. I mean, I've done both. And there's more than 2, I'm sure. Do you think when it comes to the days, months, week, do you say just there's a third option? To heck with it. Who cares?
Yeah, don't
anymore.
You can leave it in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a word that I'm fond of with gaming. When you don't particularly spell something out, it's a kind of in a gray area. Instead of it being concrete, it's something else. Anyway,
Amorphous.
no,
Wrong word.
wrong word. You're no help.
Go ahead.
So in any event, it's not something that you necessarily,
No.
unless you are Randy and always put people on a very hectic timetable. You don't necessarily have to know at any given moment what day of the year, what season, although seasons are cool to track, because it seems like in every module that I've ever gotten, and in most campaigns, most of the time, the weather is pretty much springtime or summertime.
Yeah, I do tend to default to that.
It's easier. I mean,
it's easier
to, yeah, it's easier to deal with. Yeah.
But I do think with our leanings in Mudsword now, a little grittier, and grittier, not like deadly, just I want things to matter. And it used to not be like that. I think it matters. I was really inspired by Tail the Manicore months ago, how he would roll for weather every day. And I got to thinking, there's, especially at low level, it matters if it's 40 degrees and raining for 3 days straight.
Sure.
That's going to be misery. Tracking
yeah.
across a broken land, broken hilly region. Forget the monsters. You're going to be cold and wet and miserable the whole time. And chance of cold, just chance of all sorts of issues. But back to the idea of the timing, I've done super detailed where I created my own weekday names, my month names. I had a few holidays. I listed there, you might even keep track of years like BC and AD, and I have even DR. That's Dale
Reckoning.
Dale Reckoning from
right.
Realms. Yeah.
Right.
And I remember our buddy Philip, we had a discussion about this years ago when our Elysium campaign at CabinCon got started. And he was like, I don't like messing with that. Let's just use the current month. And his idea was whatever day we sit down to play in the real world, that's the day it is in the campaign world.
That's fine too. And
that's
it
fine
gives you
too.
something to do. It gives a thing that is concrete that you could use in the game easily.
But for me, the problem is it breaks my verisimilitude. If you say, okay, it's the 24th of, like today is the 16th of November, we're sitting down and playing, and then you guys do a great trek from one side of the country to the other, and it takes you 2 months. Well, guess what? It's not November 16th anymore.
Well, what you could do is one of two things.
Yeah.
You could say you start there and wherever it ends is where it ends, right? Or you could say, all right, you guys have gone on a long trek, and here it is at the end of that long trek, and it is, instead of staying, it is the whatever day you just said.
Right.
And instead of labeling that day in the beginning, you label that day at the start of what the significant thing is that you're doing in the adventure.
Yeah.
So even if you have some random encounters along the way, and it might take them a little bit longer for one reason or another, once they set their feet down on whatever real path you have them on, that's the day that you say, this is the 16th. And then you start concrete there.
Fair enough. I think you could. And I think you could, even if you're the type that plays, okay, you're at the door of the dungeon, or you've arrived at the adventure site, and you guys are about running modules. You're not worried about any kind of, long-term verisimilitude and connecting between adventures and making things make sense. That's fine. I know it's mostly me. I prefer a detail. I mean, if I had my druthers, our campaign world would have a detailed month. It would have weeks. It would have holidays figured out in advance. I mean, I loved how Forgotten Realms had a lot of that early on in first and second edition. I think it adds a lot of flavor. It makes the world rich. I do understand that, like J.R. Tolkien and Fellowship, he just used Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. His months were pretty much the same. I got a link on there to the different calendars. There was an Elven calendar. There was a Hobbit calendar called Shire Reckoning. And then there was the Numenorian King Reckoning, which was more like our months and days. And so Tolkien did use it. I know in the movies, I remember Tolkien, or Gandalf makes a comment on that. It's October the 24th. He said that. And that's when I was like, At first I thought it was very anachronistic. And then I said, no, that's actually how he keeps track of that. And I think that's fine. If you wanted to use the real world months and dates, there's no reason you couldn't.
Right.
You know?
There's no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to lend a little bit more mystery or a little bit more detachment from the real world and more real to your fantasy world,
Right.
you can
Or
come
fantastical.
up with fantastical. You can come up with new names.
Yeah. I believe Greyhawk Gygax did have slight variance on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He had called Monday was Moon Day or something.
Oh,
And
okay.
Saturday was Sunday.
Yeah.
There was a Sunday, and then there was a star day, I think. I'm not remembering exactly. Then he had the months a little bit off. He had in the Greyhawk booklet, there was a whole calendar of like days and events, how they connected to different festivals. And I loved it as a young DM. I thought it was just awesome. And I can't break myself of that habit that I want to. I'm sure at some point, if we get down that road of our campaign setting, whether Joe does it or not, I'm going to browbeat him into, hey, we need to have cool names and stuff like this. So
For cool names for like days of the week.
Yeah, days of the week.
Oh yeah, we'll yeah.
I want to do all that, but I mean, it doesn't make it better. I think you can.
No.
I think as a DM, if you just use the current calendar and the weeks and stuff, and not, well, by that I mean the names and the week and the day and the month. If you use that, that relieves you of a lot of stress. You can focus on the cool adventuring. I get it. Yeah. And then the next part was getting down to the. Well, are there any others? Do you think there's any other ways to
Timekeeping?
do it? Huh?
Any other ways to do calendars?
Yeah, timekeeping. Besides detailed, make your own. Use the current one, or don't even worry about it. I think that's kind of it, right?
I mean, there's modern days. You can ignore it. There's detailed. You can have something that's loose. I mean that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what if the fantasy world that's there doesn't have a calendar that they're following?
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's it would depend on whether how much civilization there is.
Right.
Right. So if it's kind of post-apocalyptic fantasy where lots of settlements have been destroyed and it's points of light, maybe, and you have to run around. You have to quickly dash the wilderness to get to some other place where it's safe. Kind of like in Hyperborea with Conan.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Hyperborea? Conan?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Hyperborea is the game.
Correct.
I feel like Conan's got something else with an H. It sounds like that. Hyboria. Hyboria is Conan, I believe.
Right. So I'm not sure that days of the week mattered, at least in the movies.
Well, I would think most small groups of people may not care because life is so dangerous, but you might have some civilizations. I think like Thulsa Doom in the Conan movie. Who was the actor that played him? The guy that played
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones. He was building, in theory, he had the chance to build a new society, a strong kingdom, an empire. He would want to do like, Thulsa Doom is, and this is the first day Thulsa Doom rules. So he's this great. He probably want to be worshipped as a god. That's what it seemed like.
Right.
But the point is, I think you're right. You could definitely have a campaign where it made sense for nobody to keep track of time. Or maybe one civilization believes it's forbidden to keep track of time.
Could be.
It could be. They believe it's something forbidden. So
it would have to be some kind of religious or maybe anti-religious. Maybe the religious people used to keep track, and for some reason, the current one hates the former and all things about the former that they can vilify. And one of them is keeping track of the days of the week. Calendars are illegal.
Or maybe they did something with time travel and they brought the apocalypse. So they're like, oh, do not keep track of time. What time is it? Daytime. When will you see me? Sometime this afternoon. Let's have lunch at lunchtime. When is that? When I see you.
And it could be only important to certain classes of people. Let's say the upper crust. They have astrologers who can say, who predict things that will happen based on the position of the stars and other celestial bodies. So for them, they can track things farther down the road than tomorrow. For everybody else, what really matters is getting to tomorrow, because they're trying to survive. So they don't really care that tomorrow's Thursday or Tuesday or it's February. I mean, they can be concerned about seasons if it's a planting or hunting society. It's going to be one or the other.
Or an elite, maybe they're considered mystics, the timekeepers.
Correct.
And they're really nothing more than astronomers or astrologers, but they let people believe that because, wow, it gives them some cachet, Yeah, that's true. What about in the game? So this is where I think I've had some issues in the past. Tracking actions, initiative, and spells. I mean, if we're done with the adventure, with the idea of time there, what about this idea of rounds, turns, hours? How do you do this? And I had a couple of examples, like when it comes to spell durations. Spells is one thing you got to track, right? Joe cast web. How long does it last? And DnD usually does things like instantaneous, rounds, minutes, hours, turns being usually 10 rounds, I think, in most versions of the game. Days are permanent.
Right.
Do you remember we talked about way back in the height of the 3.5 era, we talked about how tedious it was keeping track of minute duration spells, hour duration spells. And we brought up this other option I mentioned was, what if you just had instantaneous, so many rounds, lasts a whole combat, lasts for a whole scene, or lasts for a day? So that you're not keeping track of turns. Well, wait a minute, how many turns has there been in this combat? Has there been 20 turns?
Right. So, and do you mean old school turns where it was 10 minutes?
Right.
So, for me, I have come to not like those amorphous scene. I would rather it just be spelled out in minutes, or hours, whatever, actual time, actual units of time that we know. And then it's just DM saying, okay, yeah, it's been long enough.
I was going to say that's how we've done it. Even last time we played, you were like, "Hey, how's my light spell doing? It lasts this long." You're fine. I think you've been in the dungeon 30 minutes, but I don't actually. I remember in the early editions of D&D, it seems like Gygax, our Lord and Master,
yes,
he said, he talked about keeping track of, very careful track. So know the character's movement in the dungeon. So how far have you moved? I mean, I wonder if there are DMs out there that literally counted the squares on their map and said, oh, they've moved this far at this rate. This is how much time has passed. There's been 4.2 rounds have passed. Now they cast the spell. Then he marks somewhere in the back at 14.2 rounds is going to happen. Do they actually do second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour tracking? I never have.
Right. And I'm sure there's some people that have and that do, but I think most people eyeball it.
Well, I think
you've been going around this far. This is how distance you've been farting around a little bit. Yeah, this is how long it's been.
And go ahead.
And I think that's probably a little better than looking at your clock and saying tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
Well, I have a question though, but isn't that so? Is that in your mind then somewhere between for this whole scene? Here's your scene. Your spell lasts this long. This scene, the scene of searching the top level of the temple, the Dark Ruin Temple. Your light spell is going to last.
Right. So as a game rule, you should set down how long a thing takes to do, right? A spell or whatever in real world time, right? Minutes, seconds, hours, days, that kind of thing, or permanent. And then it's up to the DM to determine how long time has passed at any particular time during play.
Right.
So it is kind of a combination, I suppose, but I would rather a spell be listed in real time units than a scene.
And is that because then you feel like you have a better grasp in your mind how long it lasts?
Right, because a scene can be like that
Yep.
over in a moment, or it could last a long time. So
True.
So while some people might want to game it
Yep.
and say, oh, right before the scene starts, I cast shield. So I guess shield lasts for a whole month because the scene lasts for a month. No,
Right.
right. No shenanigans like that. I mean, unless the DM's good with that. But personally, you put down units of time that make real world sense, and then it's up to the DM to adjudicate when that is over with, whether it's
Right.
whether you let it stretch out for the scene or not.
And think about how playing the last time we played, and it brought back memories, not just memories, how we play. It's more like you guys will ask me, you'll say, Randy, is my shield spell still up? And I'm like, how long is that? You're like, oh, I think it's probably over. And if it seems reasonable to you that it's over, you agree. Though if I'm not thinking very clearly, like, Randy, I just cast it like literally the second to last round of the combat, it should still be going. I'm like, oh, that's true. It's only been like 12 seconds. And then
Right.
you lifted up the chest. That took you maybe 30 seconds. You lifted up the lid of the chest. You're right. You would have it for another couple minutes. So you're good. While you search the whole room, your shield spell's still going.
So a good rule of thumb is probably to have prompts and cues in how you talk. So
Yes.
Randy, I cast this spell around before the combat ended. Is it
Right.
still going?
Right.
So instead of just throwing in your ballpark without any context, because you as the DM have a lot going on and you might not realize
Right. How much
context really. So the best thing to do, I think, and that's something that the DM and the players can do, is have a little cue in your question, so that the other person has something to grab a hold of and some context.
What do you think of well, I was gonna say not you, but I wonder if anybody listening, if they are real, I'd love to hear if anybody really takes meticulous notes of the time. And I imagine there are some people that do, that are really particular. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they in their mind, they're like, I'm keeping track of your movement through the dungeon, how much time has passed. I usually only ever answer that question if you guys ask me, how long have we been down here? I'm like, oh. Then I just try to think, well, they've done this, and that. They had a fight. They rested a little bit. They healed this guy. Joe researched this book. He read a little bit of time. That takes at least 25, 30 minutes, blah, blah, blah. And then I give you a rounded account. And sometimes you'll be like, Patrick will be like, oh, crap. My protection from evil spell is over with. It was 20 minutes ago, And so,
right.
And I think we all kind of have a good chuckle at that.
Yeah. And that we probably, as players, shouldn't hold the DM or if it's the DM, the players shouldn't hold each other to any exacting standard, because this is a game that Mr. Lord Emperor Gygax, and I quote, said, that it's a game meant to have fun. It's a game for enjoyment, entertainment, and you shouldn't take it too seriously.
And from what I've heard from his people that play with him, he didn't follow half the rules anyway.
Yeah.
And neither did Arneson. Well, Arneson was well known for that, but that's irrelevant.
So we should give each other some slack.
Yep.
So if the DM doesn't tell you precisely how long you have left on your spell, and perhaps he's adjudicated that it's over with, and you think, well, maybe it could last a minute more. Well, maybe you should just shut up and roll with it. We should roll with it.
Right.
Cut each other some slack. We're just here to have fun.
I agree. On the subject of initiative, because and this is a little sidetrack into Mudsword, because I haven't told Joe this. Next time I play, I'm going to be using the Savage Worlds cards for initiative. But I'm using your order of declaration, because I got to thinking some of the things. So initiative, in DnD, you have side initiative. Early on, it was you roll a d6, the bad guys roll a d6, whoever rolled higher goes first, and every round you keep rolling again and again and again.
I like rolling again and again.
Okay, yeah, that's and which is now that's gonna make the cards even better. So then now we tried last time. I think we rolled once. Well, first we had everybody declare their actions, and then we had them roll. And then this was the idea, because Joe made the point of it's pretty hard to disrupt spells and range attacks if if you don't really know if you have, because if you take third edition, everybody rolls initiative, then you tell the DM what you're going to do when they ask you it's your turn. Old D&D was more like, my fighter is rushing the orc. Okay. And then you roll initiative. I don't win. The orc goes first and he comes to your fighter. Okay. You don't actually get to move or have to move, or I'm going to rush the wizard and stop him from casting a spell. Sorry. He got initiative. He gets the spell off. Or but the wizard at the same time should say, I'm going to cast a spell. And then if the fighter wins initiative, they get to go in there and hit him. But well, one of the problems I think that happened the way we did it, because we didn't do round by round initiative. We rolled once, like in third edition, and then kept doing cyclical. And I think there was some problems. I feel like the Savage Worlds approach, if I say everybody declare, then I pass out your cards. Savage Worlds goes ace, king, queen, and then reverse alphabetical order. So it goes spades, hearts, diamond, clubs. So the ace of spades is better than the ace of hearts, is better than the ace of diamonds, is better than the ace of clubs. But you go in sequential order. So that could be fun, because then you don't know what your initiative is and we're doing it every round. I could even add something in for the Joker. Talk to one of our friends, Greg T. He says he uses it right now in 5e, and he gives them Savage World bonus, which is not much, +2 to hit and damage, which is nice in a basic game.
Yeah.
So if you get a Joker, you get a bonus for your attacks that round. But I think then granted, we're not rolling dice for initiative, but we've enjoyed the card mechanic in Savage World. So for us, just as a side note, it's kind of a mudsword comment, that I think that's a great way to do initiative. There's other systems too, of course. I've heard of initiative stats. If your dex is higher, you go first. I'd
rather not even compare. I like what I think. I'm okay with the cards. I'd rather use dice.
Yes.
Everything you do with the cards, you can do with dice. Even the Joker, you just natural 20 means the same thing.
Right.
So you could also, but doing it every round,
right,
it gives it a dynamic feel. So,
it does.
Right. Instead of it being, okay, I'm going to cast my spell on the wizard, and now I have to wait for everybody else to go and grit my teeth and hope that nobody comes after me.
Yeah. In our mudsword game, I'll give one other advantage to the cards over rolling D20s. If you roll D20s, I've got to track the order, because I can't see across the table and see the number on your D20. So I don't know who's going, and everybody across me probably won't see it.
Right.
But whereas I have oversized cards, if I lay them out, I can go, Joe has that. I just call it out ace, Joe goes, that's me, king, right, queen. And then to me, that'll be a little faster than, I use the old Paizo magnet board to keep track. That was a little timely for me to keep writing and erasing and writing.
Well, you can do the same thing with the D20. Everybody rolls and writes their number down, or just keeps that die up.
I guess I could go 20, 19.
Yeah, you just count down. 17. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, I guess you could do that.
But the one thing the card has that the die doesn't is a little bit of flair.
And everybody can see everybody's score.
Well,
which may not matter.
I think it has a flair to it, a different.
It's fun.
Yeah. But I prefer the dice. But that's
fair enough. Well, like I said, I'm going to experiment. It may go the way of the dodo. We'll see. But the point was, with the different initiatives, you got to choose. And I don't know about you, when I'm making a decision on initiative for time, I want it to be fast. I want initiative to be fast. I want to get to it, get to the action. I don't want to have to go, oh, whose turn is it? Oh, and I can't help a little bit of that, even in any version of gaming. But I like an initiative system that's fast, and that's kind of what me personally, I'm always shooting for.
Not a lot of things to either you roll or you deal the cards. Not a lot of different things to affect that. So as long as you're not looking at a bunch of stats and say, well, I got this bonus and that's feat and blah, blah, blah. Now this is what it is. Now roll the die. At most you add a stat bonus to it, probably at most, and then you go. If you do this to cards, you don't even, stats won't matter.
Right.
I guess.
Well, or stats could be, give you 2 cards. You choose the better. Could be. Who knows? But the point is, with initiative as keeping track of things, to me, initiative's always been key, because combat's been key in our games. And I was enamored, and I still I love the idea of a cyclical initiative because back in 3E, once I had it all written down, combat flows because you got 5 combatants, someone going an 18 and a 16 and a 10 and a 3 and a 1. So it's 18, 16, 3, 1, 18, 16, 3, 1. So it did become, predictable sometimes. And if someone lost initiative, it would make the wizard a little braver because he knows the orc doesn't get to swing till after he casts a spell. That's why the round by round's a little more exciting.
And if you declare first, and then this works at every round, declare, roll, resolve. This is something we talked about. It's a risk for the casters and anybody in the back doing something other than face-to-face fighting with someone you're already engaged with. You're taking a risk by saying, okay, I'm going to do something. Hopefully nobody runs around and comes smacks me in the head.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to take a risk.
Yeah, true. And I think that's fun. I think that's fun for us.
Yeah.
I think tracking initiative is a challenge. You got to find something you and your group are comfortable with. I think it is one of the most, I used to think it was sacrosanct that every edition of D&D had their only way to do initiative. But, again, with this Savage Worlds thing, thanks Greg T for the idea. I think initiative is completely portable almost.
Oh, sure.
I would imagine almost every initiative system, if it involves rolling a die, adding or subtracting something, if it involves flipping cards, choosing tokens, I think you could transport that to any game, I would imagine.
I would caveat that a little bit. You could probably do it in 3rd or 3-5, but there's a lot of initiative stuff in that game when I remember.
Right.
So messing with it you're messing with that. It may not be a huge deal.
Right. 3.x.
You are.
You got little bits and pieces. Savage Worlds got those edges that give you bonus cards and give you less cards, and Joker edges that when you get a Joker, cool crap happens. But I think it'd be fun in our game if we decided we like the cards, if we added our own little wrinkles, just little ones to make initiative a little more fun. It just depends.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else about either spells or initiative or anything you want to talk about as options worthwhile time-wise?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I do. After just on a side note, it must be some sort of typo or copy paste error, but I was looking at where I had copied over the second level magic user spells, and I had reformatted them somewhat and sent them to you.
Yes.
And web spell says 48 turns.
48?
48. Not
48.
4D8, but
48. Oh, wow.
So
okay.
it's probably 4D8 and somewhere along copying out of a PDF, it screwed it up and I didn't catch it. So I'll have to look at that.
Sorry to sidetrack everybody on Mudsport, but at some point I want us to sit down and you and I think we need to discuss. I want to see some minor changes and tweaks to some of the spells.
I've already started.
Good. Okay. What about campaigns and sessions? Dealing with time. So I'm thinking things like scheduling, everybody at the table, time to play, length of a particular session, start and stop times, snacks and breaks. From a timing perspective, I know we, especially with the way our life is working now, we play when we can. We play as long as we can. And usually it's 4 to 6 hours. I'm going to try to push 6 more than 4 in the future. Did last time. But time-wise, you got to think about these things. What about scheduling? I mean, I'm a big schedule guy, but I'm not talking about that. I mean, do you think it's more enjoyable for a group to have a set schedule, or do you think it depends on the people?
All this kind of stuff depends on the people in the group that you're working with. I would prefer if we could figure out, apart from the regular, the regular stuff where we try to meet on Friday or Saturday night and play as long as we can.
Right.
We try to throw in there, in addition, a day where we can just do an all day thing, which is a little challenge for me, but with my schedule, compared to everybody else, I don't get Saturday and Sunday off every week like a lot of other people do.
Right. Sunday, you don't Sunday? I thought
Sunday, yes, but I don't get Saturday and Sunday together off. only every 6 weeks, and then that other day off rotates throughout the week or
Right.
throughout the month. Every week it's a different day. So
Yeah.
right. So for me, it's difficult to commit, especially this time of year when the mail volume is high. It's
Right.
difficult to commit before 7 in the evening.
Sure.
So playing an 8-hour stretch starting at 7 is a no-go. You're just not going to do that. That's 3 in
No
the
way.
morning.
Not anymore. No, we're done with all that.
Even 6 hours that's
Yeah.
one.
That puts us at 1 in the morning. Yeah, we're kind of 11 or 12 is definitely a hard.
Yeah, we're
stop.
all we're on fumes by then.
Yeah, well, you and I should sit down and really talk about that, because we blabber about it a lot, but I think we need to figure that out. I think with time, though, do you think there's value? It's probably hard. What if I said we're starting at 7 and ending at 10:30? I think some people play like, especially online. I think that feels like a way. I hear a lot of people talking about playing. We've only got 3 hours to play. I've rarely, even though in my mind I've thought 4 hours, but I've rarely just said, "Oh, we're done. It's 11. Quit. Throw the dice down. Good night."
Right. Usually, it stops at a natural point within the game, but it's probably better to at least try to have a hard start time.
Yes.
And then we're shooting for X amount of time, starting from 7. And then if someone has a hard stop because of whatever reason, they should let you know. And the best circumstance is that everyone's easily contactable. So if there's changes, if you say, "Hey, we're going to start here," and then you get fairly immediate responses after that, so you can plan better. But life being what it is, sometimes you can't necessarily have that. So we got to give each other some allowance.
Yeah, of course.
If you're a real stickler for we are starting at 7:00, 1 second late, and you're not here. You're bounced.
Right. That's weird.
I mean, that would be an impossible thing for me to commit to.
I think it's an impossible thing for almost anybody to commit to. Things happen, but I don't think that's bad for a person to say, "Look, I only have 4 hours every 2 weeks to play D&D, and I want to play. So if you can't make it, that's fine. But I'm looking for people that can play 6 to 10, and I'm starting at 6 if I have half the people here." See, that interests me too.
Yeah, that's fine.
Not the hard assery of it, but just like I did last time when you and your wife dropped in. I just kind of want to get going when I say I'm going to get going, and then be flexible. I didn't get mad. Hey, in fact, it was kind of funny how you guys just showed up and you literally had you drop in the picture.
Right.
But I mean, I think, I think it's the thing. What about snacks and break time? Here's the point I want to make with that. I don't think it's a problem for the players to take breaks and snacks whenever they want. I don't care. But as a DM, I can't eat in DM. Have you noticed that? I have to stop, eat, and then DM. It's really hard for me unless it's like just like a couple pieces of a chip or two or something. But usually, if you watch me, I won't eat. Well, sometimes we'll have a meal beforehand, and I have to eat, and we just got to just chat because I just can't concentrate.
Yeah, that's understandable. That's understandable.
As a player, I have no issue, but as a DM,
because there's lulls between different people talking at any particular time. So whenever you're not doing the talking as a player, you could easily grab a drink or whatever.
Right.
But as the DM, it's a lot harder.
And I heard of groups that schedule break times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've ever done that. We're just like, hey, we don't even say anything. If Joe wants to go get chips, he gets up and gets them. We don't worry about it. Yeah. Usually
the snacks are so close. Anybody who gets up can hear what's going on. It's not like you leave the space so far that you're unaware most of the time.
Yeah, where we set the snacks around the corner, you can absolutely hear the doors wide open. So there don't have a door in there anymore. So that's kind of cool. Okay. I think that's it. The next topic, if you're ready to go on from this, is something that is exactly connected to what Heathen Dog said. He made a claim that character aging needs to be believable as your characters get to higher level. He pointed out, and I think rightly so, Joe and I experienced, especially in the 3.x area, X era, 3.5, third edition Pathfinder. That characters, you roll a character up. He's 20 years old at first level, and then he's 22 or 21 by the time he's an Archmage. He's 30, 20th level. Like, now, you could say there's cool stories to be told. Maybe your character's a phenom.
Right.
He's a prodigy. It's possible.
Yeah, but that would be on a case by case basis, not every time you play, which is pretty much the way it works out.
Yeah, if you run an adventure pass from Paizo, that's what's going to happen. Not much time usually passed. But what about a warrior? Did you notice what I said there? I think males and females generally reach their physical peak. I checked online I didn't check super. I just Googled it real quick and took it for word, between mid 20s to early 30s. Yeah. Now, me being an elite athlete in my youth, no, but when we were playing ball and stuff and a little more active, I do feel like when I hit about 28, 29, I was probably the best I've ever been.
Hit a peak. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, because when I'm younger, I feel more energy when I'm 17, 18. But when I was 29, even 30, and I played against boys that were 16, 17, 18, they might be running all over the court, but I could dominate them because I knew the spacing better. I knew how to play. And if they tried to post me up, I wouldn't care if they're 4 inches taller than me. I could push them all around the court.
Right.
And that's just one example, basketball. But my point is, a warrior does kind of reach their peak well before 40. And so if a warrior goes from 20 to 23, 24, 25, and is a 20th level warrior, that doesn't seem as crazy. I mean, maybe the progression seems crazy, but the fact that I'm the best I'm ever going to be, and I'm only 28 years old, I believe that.
So yes, but experience still, just like you in basketball, an older warrior, though he might be a little slower, maybe, might be a little weaker physically, may have so much experience. If they're both 20th level, who cares? But looking at it more realistically, the older warrior might not be able to take as much punishment, but he might be so much more skilled than that younger, though very talented fighter. He might be able to exploit enough of that talented fighter's ignorance that he can't take as much punishment, but he's not getting hit either.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old adage, old age and treachery beats youth and skill every day.
Right. So
think basketball, we were young, we were 17, 18, how good we thought we were, and what did my uncles do to us?
Right. We got pounded.
And we were like, I couldn't out jump them, but I could outshoot them. You could out jump them. We ran all day long. They got tired quicker. And they still beat us.
Right.
So, yeah. What about, how about this? I'm 45 years old, but I got a belt of storm giant strength.
Sure.
That evens things out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite I want my 18100 naturally is now only 1860, but belt of storm giant strength, that equals all things out.
Right.
So Heathen Dog said, so to combat this rapid leveling and no aging, he thought you should train old school training, and it should take a year.
A year is too long.
I think so. What do you think of the idea that,
depending on the character's current level?
Well, yeah, I agree. I think at some point, I don't know, you could argue you might need training or you might not. I would say without training, it might take longer. Then you could add some time, but I wouldn't think especially a wizard, till he got to, 11th, 12th, 13th level, where he's learning some really unique, high level, not just unique, very esoteric spells. I mean, glass steel doesn't sound like much, but that's a pretty awesome spell to turn steel to glass, or things like teleport. To learn those ancient magics takes time. He has to seclude himself and focus and go through different sorts of studies, even if he doesn't have a mentor. I'm not convinced he has to have a mentor at 13th level. That sounds kind of dumb. I mean, you could argue you always need a mentor, but I mean, I know when I would say when I finished my master's degree, I guess I still needed a mentor for sure. I didn't do much
perhaps to get a pointer here and there, not to guide you by the hand like you were a plebe.
No,
but you might get stuck, and you need you need to, okay, definitely, you typically train on your own. Then you
Yeah.
get stuck. And then, well, I
Yes.
got to go find my mentor because I'm having a problem with this particular thing, whatever it is. Doesn't matter if it's you're a wizard or a fighter, thief, cleric, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That kind of thing. That would be something, that would be an adventure too. Oh, you're in the middle of your training and you're stuck. You need to go find your mentor. He's not where he's supposed to be.
Of course not. He's a 19th level wizard. Why would he be where he's supposed to be?
Right. There's no such thing.
There is no supposed to be.
Right.
And compare it to basketball again. Imagine a young kid who's really talented at 11 or 12, and he plays a lot of basketball. So the fighter goes on lots of adventures. He gets better, right? He does. So I can see a little bit of adventure, maybe not needing a trainer either, but probably more often than not, that young player might run into another player who keeps beating him. And he's like, dang it. I'm faster than Randy. I'm quicker than Randy. I have a better endurance than Randy. How does that old man who is slow and fat, how does he beat me? Then he comes to me. I said, well, dude, here's why. And I get that you're 6'3" and you can jump out of the gym. Here's the problem. Do you ever notice how hard it is for you to jump when my hip is on your hip? When I post you up and I lean into you? And he goes, yeah, it's frustrating. I said, yeah, exactly. I'm not letting you use the thing that you want to use, your jumping ability. I'm not illegally. I'm laying on you. I'm making you carry a part of my weight. So he could learn that from me. Okay, so I got to keep my distance. I don't want to get hip to hip with Randy because his size is going to bear me down over time. And so I think those things could be brought into play where at certain intervals, you could say, okay, at this level, fighters need some training to make the jump. When they're getting ready to get like an old school DnD first edition, you're going to 4th level to get your specialization, I believe is when you got your first specialization. You don't get it till you train.
Right.
Okay. You've used natural talent up to now, but you got to get some training and you're going to run off for 3 to 4 months. And of course, I would hand wave the time most of the time. And I think you could have moments where it takes longer, but I think you could also manage those times other ways. I don't think training has to be the only way you manage time.
Right. Right. I think it's one of the things you can do. Like you said, a year for each one. Like you said,
not every time,
a duration of time. And it might even be a little variable. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same chunk of time every time. And like I said, some variation is cool too.
Yeah. Well, like to me, I think to add time, because I agree with Ethan, dog. I don't want most of my 20th level characters to be in their 20s.
Right.
I want them to be well into their 40s and maybe have a wizard into his 50s or 60s. I want you to be Gandalf at 20th level. I don't want you to be 22. Look at me. I'm a spring chicken. It's just because it just breaks. I mean, you might do that once, but not all the time. Or maybe you find magic that makes you young again. But my thought is, and I mentioned this before, I think in between adventures, there's a perfect opportunity for the DM to enforce time passage. Even low-level adventures time can pass significantly between them.
Sure. The only caveat to all of this is great for humans,
mm-hmm.
but demi-humans who live hundreds or thousands of years, sure, you made me wait 20 years. Yippee.
Well, I think I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
That's an advantage of being a demi-human.
Yeah.
Now, if you start out as a 28-year-old elf and you end your career as a 40-year-old elf, you're like, dude, I'm not even out of very young yet.
Right.
Of course you're not. And, that gives credence to something that I had a hard time with. I could see elves and demi-humans getting bored, tired, terrified, risking their life for more than 15 or 20 years.
Right. And it's
kind of crazy.
It also lends a little bit to when we would wonder why a starting elf, we know that they live a long time, but it doesn't take them longer to get to puberty. I mean, not significantly than humans, I would think. Physiology is very close. So why do they start at maybe 100 years or 200? Mm-hmm. Well, for an elf, they're probably just dicking around and just haven't decided to do it yet.
Yeah. Are they?
Because
or
I'm
their
going to live for 2,000 years. I'm not in a rush.
Their community is like, you're a kid. I'm 58. Dude, I'm 603. You're a kid. Shut up. You've not seen anything. And that's a good argument. And you're just too young. Mom, Dad, I'm going to go adventuring. You are 53. You are not leaving this house, young man.
Right.
I mean, seriously, right? And so I think maybe I think you got to do things like that. I think you got to like, don't have, the Crypt of the Necromancer breaks free and out comes all these skeletons. You defeat them at first level, second level, get to third level. 2 days later, the orc bandits start arriving and doing this and that. You defeat them. You're fourth, fifth level. Then the giants come out of the East Mountains and you got to defeat them, a week later. Dude, you
Randy
could
special. Randy special.
yeah, exactly. But you could easily say a years could go between those events.
Yeah.
You say, well, my character's not sitting around and waiting. Okay. But that's what's happening before the next time we play. So you can think about what you've done the last year and go out to seek adventure. Well, you didn't find any.
Right.
And now you're a year older. Let's move on. And I think I'm inclined to do that.
Right.
Rather
There's also like events you can have. There was a massive earthquake and you spent the last year rebuilding the village, making the roads passable again. You've helped out doing stuff like that, or some other event where the whole party gets called back to their hometown because someone died, and they're going to have a funeral and a month-long wake. And then while you're there, winter happens and all of the passes out of the village are blocked and you can't get out.
Yeah. And then you get done in the spring and Farmer Maggot shows up. You remember that earthquake? Yeah, that opened up part of my field, and there's a cave in there, and I'm hearing crazy sounds come from out of there. Yeah. There you go. Earthquake's perfect adventure that you had no chance to worry about in the spring, in the winter, and now you can hear about it. Probably should be very few adventures happening in the winter.
Right. And this kind of stuff would be great on like a table, events. And I know that there's event tables that
absolutely
the games
have.
There's probably a buttload of them out there, but that's
I've got more than a handful. And the Tome of Adventure Design, I'm sure, has it. And I've got some of the what is it, not Eureka, but some of the Engine Publishing. They did some good things too with things like that in it. Yeah, so I think I like the idea of what Heathen Dog said, but I do believe that there's more you can do than just training. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially if you don't get much of anything, if you're not a wizard always gets something, a new spell or a new spell level. So it makes sense that their training will maybe take some time.
Sure.
But there are, like say a fighter, about the only time they gain things is very sporadic in the older version of the game. Yeah. They might gain a new bonus to hit, but they might not. They might gain a bonus to their saving throw. Maybe not. Maybe the only thing you gain is some extra hit points. So should it take you a whole year to toughen up a little tiny bit, especially you roll for your hit points, you got one.
Yeah, and I think
thanks for that whole freaking year, and I got 1 hit point.
And you can take advantage of the spellcasters, the clerics, the wizards, especially the wizards, but even druids. They go from level 2 to 3. You're like, what's the big deal? Hey, you just learned a whole new level of spells. That's
worth some decent time training.
Yeah, you could say, okay, your fighter, yeah, he leveled in like a week, maybe. Okay, maybe 4 days. The wizard needs a month. Yep. Really? Yes, he needs a month.
And while your wizard is training, the fighter's wenching. So
yeah, and look at me drain your coin. I'll be draining the wizard's coin too. Don't worry. He's spending money. He's got to pay for a hotel. He's got to go out and buy things and reagents and test subjects. So Katama needs a month, right?
Definitely test subjects.
But I mean, Katama needs a month. That's Joe's wizard he's playing currently. And so, yeah, you're going to have to just wait for him.
He's Asian. So I'm totally
appropriating his culture,
some kind of culture, at least in his name. I haven't been doing any funny voices. Maybe I should.
You should. And we should be really
Japanese. That sounds Japanese, doesn't it?
I think so. I don't know. We should ask our buddy Jeff. He would know probably the difference between the different.
Or Max if he listens. His wife.
Oh, that's right. I don't know if that's Japanese. A Japanese sounding name or it's not Chinese.
It's pseudo
Japanese.
Well, pseudo Asian. So
pseudo Asian. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else about believable high level PCs and time passage?
No, I think training and then campaign events pretty much covers it.
And weather and time and
campaign events.
I don't think like even your Katama going from second to third, I don't think he necessarily needs a master to teach him. Maybe he just needs to take that spell book he captured and study the secrets enough to truly understand what it means to unlock level 2 spells.
As Gygax taught us.
As it was taught, so it is done.
Yes.
Oh, this one, I bet I'm interested to hear what you think on this next one. Is there ever, speaking of time, is there ever a time to stop playing a character in a game or a campaign, or just to stop a campaign? Is a campaign over?
Well, there's a caveat you give there,
Okay.
because I was going to say no, not necessarily. So
Right.
this has to be built into the campaign. So if you say you want to have a 3-month campaign, 3-month real time, I only want to play this campaign for 3 months, whatever happens, then that has a definite end.
Right.
But unless you do that, the only thing that really ends it is, player boredom or DM boredom. Everybody dies, or enough people dies that everybody's like, yeah, let's do something else.
Now,
But
back in the day,
yeah,
death was the only time a character ever stopped being played. And the campaign kind of kept going because you just kept making it. We thought we were playing the same Greyhawk campaign. In my mind, we were never playing new campaigns over the 10 years we played.
Right. It was one ongoing thing,
Yes.
which is a particular kind of campaign, which is fine.
Yeah.
And
I'm
as
drawing
long
back
as, as long as, now I can understand why someone would get bored with that. I've been using this world for 15 years, blah, 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 and I'm like, well, whatever, who cares? Are you doing, it doesn't have to be the same. We're going down to the dungeon. It's a new dungeon. It doesn't have to be that way. If you do different things, you explore different parts of the campaign world, or especially if you have some player input and they say, wouldn't it be cool if?
Yeah. Or heck, do what Max loves to do over at Legion of Myth, open a portal up to Sickle.
Yeah, he loves that.
He loves that. So that's what, and I like that fact that he's like that. So
yeah. We dig that about Max.
We do.
Yeah. So you have your primary campaign in a particular location. You can do plane hopping.
Yep.
And if you really have to, time hopping. I'm done with time.
Well, we're talking about time, and you're done with it. You can't be done yet. We're not done.
We're not done with the segment. So
but you will be. When this segment's over, Joe is never talking about time again.
Time travel has to be, I know it's a big sci-fi trope, and for some reason fantasy as well. There's lots of time travel spells out there. I think it's really, really
overdone.
I think you can do it to some degree, but we're going to go back in time and fix time. We're going to fix time. Well, once you fix it, you would never have had a.
I can only recall doing it one time, doing time travel once. And I love it. I think the idea is kind of cool, but I know it's just nothing but trouble. Okay. What about the final question on times here? What about too many games, not enough time?
Yes.
Life, literally. So
yes.
Do you think, I guess some people do. I mean, I listened to like my buddy Jason at Nerds RPG Variety Cast. He plays lots of games. Sounds like for shorter stints.
Yes.
And I do think online is great for that. You can play a lot of short games. At least people sound like a lot of the anchorites do that. A lot of short games. Do you ever feel like you're missing out?
Nope.
No.
Not really. I mean, there's some games I would like to have played, and I know that I probably never will. But, that's life.
Like right now, if I said, Joe, what games that you have on your shelf would you like to play? Would you like to see get at the table before you die?
I would like to probably play the newer version of Hackmaster just to see how it feels. I'd love to run at least a short Risk campaign because I like the setting.
Me too.
What else?
Savage Worlds or the original Rifts?
Original.
Okay.
Savage Worlds would be fine too, I guess, because it's the same campaign world. I mean, it's the same setting, essentially, right?
Yes. Oh, it is. Yeah, no, it's the same.
Well, if it's the same setting, that's the grooviest
that's the part you like.
Yeah. Really, that's probably the only ones I'm really aching for, apart from us getting our own act together and seeing how that turns out.
Right. I guess for me, as strange as it sounds, I'd like to go back and play a third edition game at some point, D&D,
Mhm.
some version of third, 3.3.5 Pathfinder. I've always longed to have a true X-Crawl campaign,
Oh
but
yeah, that'd be fun.
it never seems to work out.
Mhm.
Riffs for sure. Probably other than that, I don't see. I would do Hackmaster, but that's not way high on my list to play or DM.
Right.
Yeah, I would say probably X-Crawl and Riffs are the two that I would long to try a campaign with. Yeah. All right. Any other concerns about timekeeping and clocks and issues with time?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
we pretty much nailed it unless we, I mean, it might be that we glossed over things. And if there's someone out there who thinks they would like us to cover any part of what we have talked about in a bit more detail, let us know. Even if it's just a follow-up, like I've thought we could do an episode where we just hit some topics that we might have glossed over and just do multiple topics like that, and then get into a little bit more detail on multiple things.
Yeah.
If you follow me.
Yeah, I do. I think it'd be fun to hear if there's things we should go into more detail, or just we should go back and look at our earlier episodes. I bet there were some that were that we didn't go into very deep detail on. And I think we definitely could add to it. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, bud. I'm gonna hand it back over to you so that I
all right.
you input it really well there for not having looked at it in detail.
Yeah.
You have stuff to say.
Yes, I have things to say. So we are in Like It, Love It, or Leave It. And
me. My turn, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. For Joe, what do you think of animals?
Oh, they're tasty.
Some are.
Some are tasty, and some I like as pets. But dogs make me smile. I mean, I can't help it.
Dogs are my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. As pets, dogs are my favorite. I like horses. They're pretty cool. Though I like to watch them run around. But there's not too many. There's this show called, it's a YouTube channel Zay Frank does.
Yes, I love it. Z Frank. Yes.
Z.E. Frank.
Yes.
He's on YouTube, and it's somewhat educational with a big comedy twist, and he talks about very obscure, for the most part, obscure animals. Some of the animals he does are well known, but for the most part, they're obscure sounding.
He has anybody that doesn't watch that's missing something. That's a seriously good show. Yeah.
Yes.
What about druids in D&D?
I like them. I think that druids are one of the classes that changed drastically between editions, fairly drastically, because the designers don't really know what they are. Just like bards, they really don't know what they are.
Right.
Thieves and rogues, the same thing. They don't really know what they are, so they grasp at straws and throw some stuff against the wall and see what sticks. And druids end up in that arena. I think the very first druid that I remember looking at, the first edition druid, was just fine the way it was. I don't think you really needed to mess with what it did.
I remember we always thought they weren't terribly useful in the dungeon early on, but they became, and at later on levels, I mean, Entangle was a great spell, but outside in Wilderness, they got really effective, and their shape change ability was never something that was like in third edition, druids were changing into like monstrous things. And in fifth edition, changed.
They took it a little too far.
I think if you stick to the animal kingdom, even if you allow dire animals at higher level, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But at low level, it should be just about disguise, travel, being able to take advantage of animal senses. In wilderness setting, it shouldn't be about, I'm turning into a bear to kick everything's butt.
Right.
or I'm turning into, a dragon, that's at 5th level, not that it was that bad, but I think smaller animal. And I mean, heck, even turning into a mouse, what a great little sneaky spy you would be.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Especially if it lasted a while. I can't remember how long the druid shape change in first edition lasted, but if it had a decent duration, you could turn into something like that and be a great spy, like you're saying.
Yeah. What about the last one then? And this, been trying to think how I want to phrase this. Not just the act of learning a new game, but the process. So when you're playing, I'm thinking, learning new RPG. Someone sits down before you, Coriolis. I think it's a space RPG, and we're about to learn it. And the act of having to get comfortable, and you're like, well, we're going to play this. I like it well enough. What do you, or at least you like the premise of the setting, let's say. What's your opinion on having to really learn a new game, not just for a one-off?
I really don't even think about it. I like it.
Oh, you like it? You think it's cool?
Yeah. I can compare it to other game systems. I can make a determination on whether it's easy, hard, makes sense, doesn't, so yeah, I like learning new systems.
With learning new systems, on a side note, do you find yourself always comparing it to D&D?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, me too. Always.
Sure. I mean, it's the first game we played, game I played. So of course everything compares to it.
Well, and the truth is, I think for you, and I don't mean to speak for you, but I think I can in this case. D&D is the game that's nearest and dearest.
Sure.
Yeah, just is.
Yep.
So, yep.
All right. From me, polar bears.
Polar bears. We got this animal theme going.
Yeah.
I like them. I used to think they looked really cuddly. They're not.
No.
They're big and very dangerous. But I do think they're very cool animals. They're kind of, I always picture a polar bear on the ice with the wind blowing, and you watch it go, and it gets to the edge of the ice and just jumps right in that freezing ocean and doesn't seem to give two craps.
Right.
That is so just amazing to me. So yeah, I really like polar bears. They're fascinating a lot of cool pictures of polar bears, and yeah, cool.
Marriage.
It's what brings us
marriage.
Together.
Yep.
Marriage is not only do I love marriage, not just my marriage. I think that concept of marriage is one of the greatest gifts God has given us. It allows us to grow because we're forced to, and I want to use this in a loving way, deal with another person in your life. You have to make compromises, but not the biggest thing. You have to find out what things are important. And I think marriage, the biggest problem I think that I see today, people not respecting marriage, is because it's a covenant. You're making an agreement with another person. Hey, we're going to do this thing together. We're going to, in marriage, and we're going to have children. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And I think it's, me personally, I've said this in the past, and I do think it's true. For the most part, I'm a better man and a happier person now that I'm married.
Yeah,
for sure. I did not like being single. I felt almost on edge, like I'm always kind of looking, right. So, yeah. Marriage is good.
Marriage is good.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasting.
I love it. I'm having such a good time. I mean, we're 63 episodes in. It has crossed my mind sometimes when I'm feeling tired, like, oh man, can we just skip it? But when I get in here and we get chatting, man, we get motivated. People like us, people hate us. I don't care. I think it's making me less. Part of me has always been a little bit, this may not seem believable to some people, that I've worried about what people think about me too much. This has helped me to get over that. I mean, when someone gets me mad, I'm going to say it. I don't care. And if I like something, I'm going to say it. If I don't like it, I'm going to say it. And podcasting is just fun though. And I prefer it to any of the YouTube stuff. I'd rather listen to a podcast than watch a video. Fact.
Yep. And I get that. A lot of people, people differ. So some people prefer watching to listening. It all depends on what they have time for.
Yeah. And I can do both. But to me, it seems the podcast is more convenient for me because I can, mow the grass. I can ride a bike. I can work on D&D. I can have all kinds of stuff going to podcasts. Though it's harder for me to it's hard for me to do things like grade papers, work on D&D when I'm listening to a podcast because I want to hear what they're saying.
Right.
I prefer
And
music.
then listen, hear what they're saying and get something out of it.
Literally listen to it and understand it. So my podcasts are more if I'm riding a bike or working out, I can do that. Like tomorrow morning, I'm going to have the podcast on, listen to them. So the ones I listen to. So yeah, love them.
Good deal.
All right.
All right. So moving along to a Cabin Con moment. We had our business meeting this past Saturday.
Yeah. So
that's kind of a euphemism.
It really is.
Or a euphemism isn't the right term. It's an exaggeration.
It absolutely is. Because what business goes on? Here's the date. Everybody gonna be there? Yeah. Give me your money by this date. Sweet. Let's eat some more food and talk about D&D.
Right.
So how did it go this past time? What'd you think?
It was a good meeting. The business part was short.
Yep.
The eating part was long.
Which makes it great.
Yeah. And talking about various things. We didn't just talk about D&D, but we did talk about that. We talked about other things, whatever the topics of the day.
Yeah.
And we kind of separated into a couple of groups where one group got more into the gaming talk and another group got into the topics of the day.
Right. I think it's interesting how our business meetings are actually, now that it's, at least for me, now that it's smooth in my mind, I can get the money collected, pay the person that owns the resort, get everything organized. I got it all figured out. I got a bank account just for Cabin Con, so I can deposit the money. It's just the thing for me that's not a big deal. The discussion always comes up though, is number of people. We're looking at 22-ish, 23. I don't know. We're saying that's kind of a cap. I feel like we could go 25, but anybody beyond 23 has to be willing to sleep on the floor. I do feel like there are some people that, and I think you and I are both one of them. I think I'm not as enthused at Cabin Con getting up into the 25s and 30s, but
not considering some of the past Cabin Cons we've had. Not that we've ever had a really bad one, but we've had some that because of the numbers and other things, fewer people were enthused about that particular time.
I think one of our friends mentioned it, kind of became clicky con. We got into clicks. And
it might have been the makeup. It may not have been the numbers.
It may have been makeup. So we'll see how this goes. You and I and a few other guys, we always hang out together. And then there's other Cabin Conners that spend more or less time in our circles. But I get around talking to everybody. And hanging out. It's such a good time. I hate to turn anybody away that really wants to go. Someone that's really wanting to be a part of the group and do what we're doing. We're going to add a couple of new folks this time, and hopefully it works out well. I'm pretty excited about that. With this being the 16th Cabin Con, I had mentioned again, and it's still early. Cabin Con 20 is not that far away.
Right. It's not.
So
20.
Yeah, 20 years. And I feel like we need to do something special. I mentioned a very basic thing, like possibly staying an extra day, but I felt like there could be even more cool things we could do. Maybe we'll make the events. We'll have some special events.
Yeah.
We should do something to celebrate the 20th when he gets here. But 16, man, what do you think of that? 16 years, dude. Have you hit them all? Have you made all of them?
Everyone.
Me too. Yeah. That's awesome. So
maybe we could get challenge coins.
Oh, okay. Challenge coins. What does that mean?
That means it's a commemorative coin for the event.
Okay.
And I've wanted to have them in previous, but when I looked them up, they're kind of expensive to get.
Oh, okay.
It's basically a metal coin that, you'd have to design it. So.
Oh, commemorative coins for the 20th.
Yes.
Oh, that's an idea. We got 4 years, so maybe we could. I could bounce that off. We could bounce that off the dudes that don't listen and see if people would want to donate.
Sure.
I'd be happy to keep track of the funds and purchase them for the 20th. And maybe Patrick could give us some ideas for design for design of the coin, and that would be super cool, actually.
Right.
That's a good idea. I would also like to do something. We should do something game wise that's kind of cool. Maybe something. It doesn't have to be something totally unique, but something that could be involved with just about everybody. And like I said, I would like the idea of an extra day, but it doesn't have to be that. We talked about possibly moving to a bigger spot, but I'm not keen on that either. I like where we're at.
Yeah, I do too.
but who knows? I know some of the guys mentioned they might
it's-
want to.
Yeah. I don't know how much better people want it to be. Someone mentioned we could do better, but I mean, I don't know. It's
Well,
fine.
The guy that said that had done just a little research last year, and they had found some places that were as good or better prices. And he went and looked at one. He said it was for the price. It was cheaper than where we're at, but it was like a lot more convenient for the type of gaming thing that we're doing. And someone else mentioned that we don't need the water. I like having the water, but it's not a requirement.
No, and actually the main cabin where Trent is at is very inconvenient for him.
Absolutely. Even though it's true.
Where
But
most of the gaming happens, he needs to be next to it because he can't get around very well. So
right.
I guess that is if we put that in the consideration, maybe a little bit more than just it's fine the way it is, we can look maybe a little more seriously at other places.
Yeah. And we're talking like, if we had a dormitory style place, I mean, wouldn't that be cool if we all had like, rooms where we could sleep 4 guys, but we were all in the same building in a dormitory style. And then you had a couple of rooms, say a kitchen and a main room. Now, of course, we've had the problem. We get 20, 30 guys. You got 3 or 4 games going on in a main room. That's too loud.
Yeah.
So that would be a concern. And even if we going in May here in Michigan, we don't tend to get the greatest weather. Though last year was pretty awesome. We had some great days, but we've also had snow.
Yeah.
So, but the business meeting was a success, and right now it runs smooth as butter. I mean, no issues at all. So, that's kind of how we do with our. And we always do it in November, and then everybody always says, "Hey," at the end of the night they were saying, "We need to get together more. We need to do more things like this," which we do. People need to host more events where the guys, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, I know it can be tough when it's just the guys, and bring the wives. Let's hang out so the guys are all together. The women can be with us too, but the business meeting is usually just for the dudes that go to Cabin Con. But we can get together and everybody could be there. We need to do more of that, just in general.
Yeah.
See each other. So, but that was a good time. Good time and successful. So
very successful.
All right. Good deal.
All right. Anything else we need to say?
I got nothing.
We're going to kick this pig. We're going to kick this pig.
Kick a pig. You pig kicker. I've never heard of that.
That's a movie reference. Very obscure.
Oh, okay.
Up is it's either up or down Periscope. With
Okay.
Kelsey Grammer as a.
Okay. Kick this pig. That's funny.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what he says. Anyway.
Yeah.
If you would like to support our show, please visit the many places that you can find us on the interwebs. I hope folks out there don't mind me using that word. I like it. Our website, biggestgeekuspodcast.com. You can click on support and give us your money because we will take it.
We will.
We're on Twitter at Biggest Geekus, Facebook, Biggest Geekus at Biggest Geekus Podcast. We have a MeWe page, Odyssey, YouTube. In all these places, just search for Biggest Geekus. You will find us. Our email is thegeeks@biggestgeekuspodcast.com. I would have loved to have just gotten biggestgeekus.com, but somebody already has it and they want money for it. More than I would want to pay. Please share the show with your friends and let us know if there's any other way that you can, if there's another way that you listen or watch that we could support better.
Yep.
Please subscribe, like, share, and rate us on all the places that you find us. I'm also going to start recommending podcasting apps other than the main ones like Amazon, iTunes, and all those. They're starting to get kind of long in the tooth and are not very responsive. And they're starting to be a little bit, we're going to kick you off of here if you don't toe the line. So
Gotcha.
I will in future have some stuff about podcasting 2.0. And I think there's a website called newpodcastapps.com where you can find some podcast apps that are more down with the freedom of speech and whatnot. So
amen with that.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else to say?
Nada, man. Let's get out of here.
All righty. This is Joe.
And I'm Randy.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.